So, welcome everyone to the Insurance Perspectives podcast. This is part one of our series on Agave. On today's show, we have Aditya Mehta
Hey, how are you guys?
and Greg Mallin.
Hello, good to be here. Thanks for inviting us.
Aditya is going to get the full introduction in part two, as we normally do. As a sneak peek, Aditya is the agency owner for All Coverage Insurance in Virginia, and he has over 20 years of experience in the insurance and financial services space with a heavy background in technology. So I'm excited once we get to part two to dive in, and I look forward to his contributions to this conversation too. Greg Mallin is the Chief Revenue Officer for Agave and is in the hot seat with us today. I was, as I am wont to do, I was LinkedIn stalking our guests, and I realized that this year kind of marks Greg's 30th anniversary of working in financial services and technology.
Thanks
I
for
think it's
pointing
pretty
out
awesome.
the age. I
You're welcome.
appreciate that. Thank you
I
for
hesitated,
that.
but
You started right after birth.
If I could be so lucky. If I could be so lucky.
It's important that our listeners know that when you talk about this stuff, you are talking from a position of true experience. With that, for the last 6 years, you've been with Agave, and you've been
Yes.
helping grow and build how they engage with insurance agencies, which is how we met. As folks who are watching the video version of this can see, Agave, Greg, his business partner Clint, huge sponsors and supporters of our HawkSoft user group. National conferences, regional conferences, other events throughout the years, Agave has been an amazing sponsor. Most importantly to everyone, and again, for those watching the video, my hairdresser up and moved to New York without telling me, and I have not been able to get a haircut in like 2 months. But yesterday, in the mail, an Agave hat showed up, and I kid you not, yesterday I was sitting and I was thinking, I was like, I have to be on video on a podcast tomorrow, and my hair has gotten to the point where even my wife, who very rarely comments on how I look, was like, "Is it time for a haircut?" Which I always know is a bad sign, because literally I could be like covered in mud and like disheveled, and Dana, my wife, would just be like, "Oh, you look fine, honey." But when Dana starts making observations about my hair, I'm like, "Oh boy, I really need to get a cut." And then I remembered that Greg was sending me a hat, and it arrived yesterday just in time. So thank you for this hat. Thank you for being here. It's enough from me. I want to dive into our conversation today. And before we get to the 5 partner questions we always ask, could you give me the elevator pitch for Agave? What do you guys do for insurance agencies?
Great. Thanks, Kenny. What we do is streamline the process of accepting payments for the insurance agencies. Generally, this is focused on agency bill. The past, insurance has been slow to acclimate to what we see in the regular world, right? We're adopting digital payments everywhere and anywhere we go. Paper is now it's outdated. So what we want to do is increase the cash flow by digitizing the experience, be it ACH or credit cards. We want to streamline any processes from the very first engagement the insured has with our agency partners, and then eliminate those manual processes on the back end to provide an easy reconciliation and make it smooth and simple for everybody involved in the process.
Perfect. Thank you. So that gives us a nice background to start exploring the 5 questions we asked all of our partners. Agave, you are a solution partner with us, and have been for a number of great years. We touched a little briefly, Greg, on your background as a prodigy, starting as a toddler in the financial services space. And we think that individual stories are extremely important here at HawkSoft. The why of why a company exists, the reason that they've grown to where they are, that matters a lot. And we've had a few chances over the years to talk about where Agave came from, how it grew. I would love for you to tell us the very easy answer of why does Agave exist? Or if you put it a different way, why does Agave participate in the independent insurance agency channel?
Great. Good question, too, by the way. So take it back. Agave has actually been around since 1997,
Wow.
formerly known as Intrix, and some
Hmm.
of our earlier clients may recall that. Um, when we took a look and did a lot of diligence on the insurance industry as a whole and identified gaps, pain points that anyone from an agency through a carrier will experience. And again, I'm going to, refer back to the ACH. Everything was a paper check at the time. We took a look at our platform and our solution that we had here before we entered the marketplace, understood the need. The beauty of our solution within the insurance industry is proprietary. It allows our development team and product teams to be very nimble with customizing any opportunities to collect those payments, omni-channel experience, how many places can we capture those payments to make it as smooth and easy as possible. As we performed the diligence, we did some work and evolved our solution specifically for the insurance industry. It is only one of two focuses here at Agave. Um, I did mention, I'm going to backtrack just a little bit, is I mentioned
Please.
Intrix. We rebranded everything as we entered into the insurance agency. We wanted to separate ourselves and create a persona and a brand that is in lockstep with how we treat our clients,
Hmm.
how we want to give advantages to the agencies, the HawkSoft community, to make life easy as possible and create the best possible experience for their insured. So we looked at it, became immersed. I do actually have a background as a 5-year licensed agent in my past. So I had gone through the training, the licensing, and then continuing education for some time. And I have to applaud folks in this industry. That is not an easy test nor an easy task to accomplish. And it's not actually the, you know, uh, compelling information that you may want to spend a good long time in studying and learning. But I applaud the people that know this industry way better than I. We have immersed ourselves into it with folks like HawkSoft and learning this and grew a real affection for it and
Hmm.
felt confident from everybody in this team, from our service support, to lend itself to make the experience better than what we've been seeing out there and continually evolve that and make this a better industry for everybody as well.
Yeah. I really appreciate that. I think it definitely comes through you guys' care and focus on independent agents. Just seeing how you interact at Hug events, where there's always a lot of insurance agents around, and you guys are always very generous with your time and sponsorship of those, because it takes a whole village to put on one of those events, and you guys have always, for the last few years, have really been a key player in that. Um,
Can I give my shout out to Amelia for
Please.
all her
Oh,
hard
100,
work?
yeah.
That's why I
Amelia.
wore this for her. She's
uh,
fantastic.
yeah, absolutely. Amelia Yak, who is the executive director of our HawkSoft user group, um, best in the business at event coordination and herding the cats that are Hug. Um, so, you know, it'd be remiss. We won't name names, but um, financial services it's a well established industry. Um, Agave is not the only digital payment provider in the world. Um, and HawkSoft would say the same thing. We're definitely not the only management system in the world. We're not the only insurance technology provider in the world. And kind of the perspective we have about other management systems is probably 80% of the features we offer, there's going to be some overlap with our competitors. Where we can stand out is like that 20% that's a key differentiator, things we do uniquely, how we approach a problem. And so we like to ask all of our partners, if you had to pick one aspect of Agave that draws in and keeps customers, what would that be?
When we talk about retention, I think the very first place we need to go is service and support. So we could put the solution aside and definitely understand, yeah, we're not the only ones out there. So to drive a point of differentiation, and it's based on feedbacks from folks like Aditya and the other HawkSoft agencies, is live support and service. They sit in our offices with us. We're located here in wonderful Scottsdale, Arizona, thus the Agave. Let's see if I get the point there. We aim for one call resolution when people are there. We know, and to Aditya's agency, he has transportation. We have a good number of those people. They can encounter chargebacks often. What's
Mm,
beautiful about that with Agave is our team can see those in advance at times or are prepared to provide the documentation to eliminate that hassle because it's a pain in the butt for a lot of our agencies. But these folks are on top of it. They will proactively call if they can identify it, and they are ongoing. They will reach out proactively to make sure any new feature functionality has been adopted, better ways to do things, continual training, just supporting the entire HawkSoft community personally, right?
mhm.
This is a relationship business at the end of the day, and it's key to establish those with your service folks and really drive that relationship because after I'm gone or not appearing, they're talking to those folks in our support and success teams regularly. So establish that rapport. Our folks are very personable, understanding of the business. We keep them apprised of the insurance industry specifically as well, so they understand terminology, how to communicate properly and effectively with all of our clients, and drive a better experience go forward. And they create those one-to-one relationships with a lot of our clients and a lot of the HawkSoft people specifically, whereas they know each other now
Mhm.
personally and talk about some of the crazy things in their lives that have nothing to do with HawkSoft or insurance for that matter. But it's really great to have that, and that drives the retention and the personal aspect of our business.
Yeah, I love that. Um, Aditya, as an Agave customer, does that ring true with your experience?
Yeah. Although I didn't get a hat, so maybe I shouldn't.
Yet,
Yeah.
yet,
Yeah. So,
I knew
uh,
that was coming.
yeah, exactly. But basically, I'll second what Greg said. One specific example that I can remember in the transportation space, where premiums are typically, pretty high. We had a limit, I think, of like 15,000 when we first started, or something, single transaction,
Yeah.
and we were hitting that limit multiple times. So I just called Greg and I said, "Hey, what do we need to do?" I think within like 2 days we had increased it to like 30, 40,000 or something like that. And the response time, I can absolutely say, is phenomenal. Any other vendor, or even Greg, could have said 15's our limit. Sorry, that's all we can do for the next 6 months, a year, until we get to know the history. But I think
Hmm.
he worked through some short channels to make that not be the answer. So that was great.
Yeah.
And if I can point something extra to that, you raise a great point, DJ, is we hear that often on limits, just in insurance in general. It's one of those hurdles that is encountered often. And what it does, if we like to look at the velocity and the history of the client and the agency. And what we see is those with lower limits split the sales up, which increase the amount of cost that the insured's going to get. So the
Hmm.
goal is to be able to accommodate that transaction in a single manner, right? Click, click, paid, and take care of that, and then eliminate and keep the cost and experience for the insured low. So a little editorial there. I took the plug
Yeah.
shamelessly and
No,
ran
but I
with it.
appreciate that because that really speaks to um, understanding what an agency goes through and
Yeah.
taking that care to say, like, it might be more financially beneficial to you as a service provider to enforce that limit and say, well, you got to split it up. And then, yes, we have to apply those transaction fees or what have you. But it's better business and it's better for the relationship to say, while it might take a little bit of elbow grease on our side to expand this or make that or extend that trust, we're going to do it because it's better for the relationship. So I think that's a
Right.
really it's a testament to how Agave approaches things from a relationship perspective and at the agency level, not just thinking we're a bank or not, we're the financier. We don't need to bend to the whims of these smaller businesses. But you're guys saying like, no, we're down here with you, helping facilitate this, and we're gonna find the right path.
Right. And that's key in any issue that arises out of an agency, right? You have to be able to be nimble
Mm-hmm.
and amenable to those requests from people as quickly as possible and accommodate their business. That's our lifeblood. Aditya is our lifeblood, right? And there's nothing better than servicing that client and making them happy. That's our reward at the end of the day. So good points,
Fantastic.
Kenny. I appreciate that.
No, thank you. Um, Going on to our stepchild of questions that we always ask. I phrase it that way because it's this weird little speed bump in the middle. And listeners are probably getting sick of me pointing that out. They're like, yes, we know this question's, it feels weird based on the last two. For a HawkSoft audience, data ownership is very important to our agencies. HawkSoft's position that we put forward and we put into our agreements is that an agency owns the data that they store and cultivate within our system. Agave is in the financial services space. You guys have a ton of your own strict regulations that you follow for data governance and data protection. I would love, Greg, if you could tell us a bit about how does Agave approach data ownership with regards to your customers?
Got it. So with that process, anything we capture in the front end, so we can only produce or provide any data that we capture, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a little different in an integration platform because now we can share information,
Mm-hmm.
capture it, and share that on the back end. Everything that we collect is available to the agencies aside from one thing, and that's card data or ACH data. We don't want the exposure to the agencies or HawkSoft
Mm-hmm.
or anywhere where we're connected with the payment information. So, as a PCI level one provider on our platform, we capture and hold that on our system and our platform to protect our clients, agencies, partners, for being exposed or breached in any sense of the word there.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as any other data, we can share as much as that's needed, slice and dice, customize accordingly. Our solution on the back end does have transaction reporting that is fully customizable and allows more customization across fields
Mm-hmm.
to really help streamline that back office process. That's where we hear a lot of the input from
Mm-hmm.
HawkSoft and the community is how do we streamline that? How can I gather enough or critical data, key data points or critical data points
Mm-hmm.
that help that reconciliation go smoothly? We see a lot of QuickBooks. We can
Yeah.
align the reporting and customize the headers to assimilate with their accounting system and have the ability to upload that into that platform.
Nice. And so it sounds like you guys are held to that PCI standard, and so you're doing everything you can to protect that data that you do have access to, and then you're also kind of making the smart decision in saying this is sensitive data that we're gonna hold within our system because we have those security standards that we hold, but we're not going to transfer it back. And that honestly lines up with how Hawksoft does it because we don't actually allow the store. It can be done, but we do not have a field nor a place to store payment data within HawkSoft,
Yeah,
specifically for that reason. Just because it's you don't want that laying around. You don't want that
no,
liability.
no.
Yeah.
There's, as you know, in history has shown, there's Target and the multiple other major companies that get breached, and that data
Hmm.
becomes free in the world. And
Yeah.
it's a highly evolved technological world nowadays, and a
Yeah.
lot of bad things can happen. So that's the one key piece. Any other data we're happy to share, or if we can
Hmm.
accomplish attaining it for our partners and our agencies, we're happy to do so and work with them.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, so this podcast is designed to be a dialogue between technology providers like Agave and insurance professionals like Aditya. So it's a two-way street in that regard, and we like to give our technology partners an opportunity to maybe air some uh, frustration slash constructive criticism for the insurance agency space. So Greg, you had your license for a while. You've been in this business for a while. You've been with Agave for over 6 years. What is the hardest part of working with insurance agencies?
Great question, and I'll tread lightly. You put me.
Oh, please don't.
You didn't give me a hat. You
No,
didn't give
it's
me a hat.
fine. I'm kidding, Kenny. I mean, obviously, I'm a pretty outspoken guy. I don't know if you
Yeah.
realize that about me. We've had many a conversation. So the hardest thing is to get agencies to quit settling.
Mm.
And I've been on LinkedIn saying some of these things and have had these conversations. We know there are other providers out there.
Hmm.
What I see is, well, that was there and it's popular,
Hmm.
or, well, it's good enough is a term I hear often.
Hmm.
And this is just not to agencies. This is the industry as a whole. As my belief, or what I've seen in just being with 6 years on this side of it and the front end of it, is the acceptance of technology is it's being resisted to a degree, and I think
Mm.
it's just education. So,
Yeah.
and what we're doing right now is helping people get comfortable with that, right? Understanding that it's going to do wonders for your business. It's going to drive things faster.
Hmm.
Again, the cash flow, the streamlined processes, manual pieces out, paper out. But I hear, oh, we have this, it's good enough. Well, there's other pieces of it that are different. And I always want to engage people and say, please validate your existing. We understand some things fit better with others than we might, and that's
Hmm.
okay. My goal and our goal at Agave is successful agencies, MGAs, carriers, partners, right?
Yeah.
Is the experience doing what it says it's going to do? And are we evolving with the needs of the industry? So that's critical. And the hardest thing to do the question, to get back to answering it point blank, is engage.
Yeah.
Do not get pigeonholed in these, oh, this is good enough, or settle. Why do you settle? You
Yeah.
don't settle for things in your personal lives. I know that. Come on.
Yeah.
We look for what else can help me enjoy my life better. What can enjoy my business better? What
Yeah.
can my clients, we talk about retention, we have to consistently provide the best possible service and technology to make that person not even, we use the old adage, it's like toilet paper. You don't realize how much you need it till you're out of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, it's maybe not
Sure.
the best little analogy there, but let's think about that. And yeah, I want to be invisible. That means I'm
Hmm.
doing the right thing, but I have to still hear and put my finger on it. Or when I do proactively reach out, engage, take a
Yeah.
peek on, oh yeah, I have this. Let's stack them up and compare them.
Yeah.
I love it.
Absolutely.
One, we can each learn from each other, even vendors, right? We all know it's not a secret that we're going to look and see what's becoming useful, or
Hmm.
a great new resource that makes things easier. Well, we all have to evolve to that point, but then also find different programs that address new needs. We've recently seen fee costs go up,
Mm.
some significantly. So what do? We went and prepare a new program or options that say, I want to take care of my insured. Great. Um, I don't want anything to do with the fee. We have many ways of accommodating the agencies,
Sure.
but they don't know that if they don't engage and
Yeah.
validate. So that would be my biggest look, or
Sure.
frustration, if you
Yeah.
will, of just getting people to take a peek at something different.
Yeah, and I totally appreciate that. And I think, Aditya, you have a very specific background that I think gives you a good what I imagine is going to be an interesting perspective on Greg's feedback there. With your background in implementing technology at agencies and brokers of varying sizes, how do you feel about that? Do you agree or disagree?
I was going to chime in before you queued me up for it. To that same point, Greg, I appreciate you saying that as a vendor. When I transitioned from my corporate world to take over the agency, one of the things that I struggled with, and if I'm going through it, I can only imagine what other people that may not have the technology background are going through. The good enough, right? I got so many brick walls that were like, but I want this, and vendors were like, we don't do that, we can't do that, because it's a crazy balance of vendors that can do it focus on bigger companies, and vendors that can't focus on smaller companies.
Mm-hmm.
So the companies that I wanted to engage for doing the, hey, I'm not going to settle, I want to do this thing, weren't ready to engage with me.
Mm-hmm.
And the vendors that wanted to engage with me didn't have the expertise to get me to that level.
Mm-hmm.
So pushing and pushing and pushing, I curated a list of vendors for my agency that had that balance. And Agave is one of them. And they're very few in the industry. And so when what agencies see is they're classically trained because they keep hitting that wall
Mm-hmm.
over and over again,
Mm-hmm.
and not knowing that there are other options, get into that pigeonhole that Greg was talking about. So I appreciate when vendors go out and do, and provide capabilities, the big enterprise capabilities for the little guy.
Yeah.
And I love it. So that's my perspective.
Thank you.
Yeah, if
Go ahead,
may I add a little something? I
please.
mean, that's a great point, Aditya, and that's how we look at it, right? Is treat your smallest client like your largest, and generally those small need a little more handholding, and I think that's important to help them see the differences and understand what's out there, but give them the feel of a big organization. To
Mm-hmm.
Aditya's point, I thought that's a great thing to always consider and keep in our minds here at Agave is, hey, we don't want the little guys, they're too much work. Well, we're not here to serve only a portion.
Mm-hmm.
We're here to serve HawkSoft.
Mm-hmm.
So it could be from someone who does 2, 3 payments in a month. Yeah, I'll provide them a solution, of course.
Mm-hmm.
We have to take care of those folks. They're going to grow. Our
Exactly.
goal is to help them grow.
Yeah.
And we were talking earlier about a hard market and how difficult it is. And we're seeing a transition to agency billing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now you really have to take a long look at the different opportunities out there for people like Agave, those agencies that are starting to look at, hey, I'm going to expand into E&S or any type of agency bill line. Well, they need to be prepared, and we want to bring that and have that option because as we're seeing, the personal lines are struggling a little bit, hard market. Well, there's good margin over here in the agency bill. Good time to start growing and looking at that profitability you can reap from expanding the opportunities in your agency.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's so important for technology companies to recognize. And it is like an approach HawkSoft has where we want our core system to have what we would call table stakes for an agency. If you're a scratch agent just starting out, you've got your few appointments, you're ready to start managing a book of business. Everything in our system, we want you to be able to be successful with that, with the intention that you're going to grow and outgrow some of those table stakes, where then we need to bring in an Agave to handle your invoicing and your payment processing and your agency bill, or a marketing platform or something like that, where we want them to grow. Like we don't want to drop an agent into like a little goldfish tank and be like, this is your limit. Like that, I would never want to tell an agency owner like, no, you have to stay in this box. Like I want them to reach whatever potential they want. Because there is going to be an agent that's like, I'm happy being a one person shop with my small book of business in my rural community, I'm good to go. But then there are others that are like, this was great for my grandfather, great for my dad. I want to go bigger. And we have to be able to like meet those needs, accommodate those things, and go with the ride with them, because it's like almost every agency probably started as a person at a kitchen table, and now they're hundreds, thousands of employees, those types of things. So we got technology has to meet people there.
Agreed.
Now, come to our last partner question, which is always, we try to do the upswing. We try to make a soft landing after that constructive feedback section. Greg, I would love to know, what is the best part of working with insurance agents?
That's easy. It's the people. I've always, I hope it comes through.
Yeah.
Because I'm a passionate guy to begin with, and I've always been a one-to-one relationship or large portfolios, partners like a HawkSoft, where you get to engage all walks of life. People that know a lot of things that open our eyes at Agave to what we can do better in many, many ways. And just to listen to the stories and journeys that a lot of these agencies have taken to become how big they are, they're generational. Paul Hawkins always has a great story. And I watch that man every time I go to one of our regionals or these shows, and he wells up. And it moves me to see that commitment to, one, the platform, two, the community, which I think he would almost put the community first, in my opinion. We emulate that, right? And I love someone that is so deep into that and gets to meet these people. I don't get to help every single person in the HawkSoft community, but if I could at least recommend something, and I've sat at lunch tables with the folks and learned what they need, how they act, what type of interaction they prefer, it's all those little characteristics that you get to learn that makes it rewarding. Aditya he said a couple things and politely and truly appreciate it, is I met his salesperson at one of the shows. And he said, Greg, you changed our lives here of how we can increase that cash flow. And recently we added more feature functionality for him and his team. Just before the call, added a couple things that are going to make his life better. That's where the reward comes. Yeah, I'm the sales guy. Closing's great. I'm not going to lie. I love bringing new people in. But it's that relationship that's built all there. I love going to the shows, every piece of it. And, you could say, oh, this is from the heart.
No,
I
absolutely.
think you know that. And we've known you guys for a long, and it took us a little time to get going together. And I appreciated the way you did the diligence and get to know us and see our commitment. And that helped make this relationship better and allowed us to be better. So again, just to recap it all of that nice anecdotal information is it's the people that I work with, not just internally, but the external part of it. It's awesome.
Oh, absolutely.
Makes it fun.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I do think, you guys were very consistent. You were always showing up for Hug, always supporting the group, always just kind of sitting for a very long time. I can talk with agents for a very long time. You guys can run circles around me, and your patience and engagement when you sit down at an event and maybe there's a happy hour and then it just keeps rolling. You're still there talking with agents. I've always been impressed by that. You're definitely a relationship driven company. And we've been able to build a really good relationship over these years. This has been a fantastic conversation, and I really look forward to continuing it in part 2 when we're going to turn our focus to Aditya in full. So I'd like to thank you, Greg, for being here and talking with us today. Aditya, for providing your perspective throughout. Thank you for watching today's episode. Click the video description below to learn more about our guests and to view the latest podcast episode as well as other content from HawkSoft. We appreciate you watching and hope you join us next time on the Insurance Perspectives podcast. Thank you.